I like to take another term that I learned from you, which is soul rebel. I think, is that what you would consider yourself? And I find it interesting because soul and rebel is somehow very different. But yeah, could you elaborate on that in terms of your journey, your life?
Yes, absolutely.
Why soul rebel?
Soul rebel. If we use the term soul rebel, spiritual warrior, these are very polarizing terms expressing the duality that we have, that we live in this world as a human. So for me, being a soul rebel or being a spiritual warrior is all about finding our freedom within everything that we do, finding our passion and also fighting for our passion, fighting for our freedom, fighting for our sovereignty, not in a way of, going to war, but really being authentic with ourselves and being true to ourselves. That's what I mean about being a soul rebel and not following what is imposed upon us from society, but really stepping into our bigger shoes and embodying everything that we came here to embody in this life.
That's beautiful. Maybe if we go into a bit more, some details from your life and your personal journey with these dualities, which one was more prominent maybe at what times, or do they come, are they both present at all times? How did you even become aware of these two?
That's a really good question.
Poles.
How long do we have for me to answer that?
you take your time.
I could go on
and on. We
love
stories.
So, okay, let me think. The first part of my life felt really artistic, connected to soul, connected to creativity, expression, dance, art, painting, piano, all of that. And then I got into sports. And as soon as I got into sports, I tapped into more of the ninja world or the warrior world, and that discipline. And not that there's no discipline in like learning how to play piano, for example, but it's very different in terms of mindset. So from a very young age, I was called to spirituality. I think I got that from my dad, who was like talking to me about the trees, in our yard and how they develop and, what it is to be a mentor in life. My dad being a teacher and an entrepreneur as well. And so I feel like the first part of my life was really soul connected. Then the sports and academic studies, that was more about being a warrior. And then after my first injury, which stopped me from being a triathlete, my first big injury, and when I found my yogic path, I'm going to say it like that, that's where the two terms, soul rebel, really came to life as far as what it means to undo the personality that we've created for ourselves and really do the shadow work to find ourselves again in a truer essence, a more aligned essence. And that takes a lot of rebellion to muster the courage to go through that, and also to rise from it and to know what to do with it, to walk a path of purpose. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I'm thinking, so it sounds to me also like integrating, right? Both. Yeah. I mean, the way you're describing it to me, it sounded a bit like there was a first phase, then a second phase, and then the third is kind of both have their kind of space, and you navigate it kind of more fluidly instead of having it in a series, like one after the next.
Exactly. That's the first thing I first, putting myself into boxes. This was my creative box. This was my athletic box. And the more that I've evolved on my spiritual journey, what I found is I'll refer to it as first nature, second nature, and third nature. So my first nature was this artistic expression, or, developing that first personality, and then growing into my second nature of also gaining the arms and the skills that I need in the world to be in the world as a warrior, as a ninja, stepping into my power. And then how do I merge this together, not from a place of fight, but from a place of grace.
Yeah,
and that
beautiful.
is the third nature that I would call more spiritual, where we unite the duality, where we get into non-dualism.